Meso froze, her face draining of color. Susan looked from Mark to Meso, confused. Wait, you two know each other? Mark stood up, his voice steady but cold. This is my ex-wife, the one I told you about. Meanwhile, Jane sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone with a mischievous smile. Favor walked in holding a bowl of popcorn. Jane, why are you smiling like that? Favor asked, popping a piece of popcorn into her mouth. Jane burst into laughter, holding up her phone. Favor, you won't believe it. Chuka dumped Meso. She's back to being all alone. Favor's eyes widened in excitement. Ah, I said it. That girl thought she could win. Didn't I tell you Chuka can never stay with one woman? It's his nature. Jane leaned closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a juicy secret. After what Meso did to Mike, I knew her own day was coming. Karma doesn't miss anyone. Favor clapped her hands in mock celebration. Exactly. She deserves every bit of it. I hope she learns her lesson. They laughed so hard that tears rolled down their cheeks, unaware of the chaos silently approaching their own lives. Susan and Mark sat on their balcony. Susan stared at the distant city lights, her heart beating fast. She held her mug of tea tightly, looking at Mark without him noticing. Mark, she began quietly, her voice trembling slightly. There's something I've been meaning to talk to you about. Mark put down his drink and looked at her, worried. What is it, Susan? She hesitated but then smiled. I've had time to think about your proposal and my answer is yes, I'll marry you. Mark's eyes lit up as he grabbed her hands. Susan, you don't know how much this means to me. You've made me the happiest man alive. Susan laughed quietly. Well, I hope you're ready for a lifetime of my stubbornness. I wouldn't have it any other way, Mark replied, his voice full of joy. A week later, they traveled to Susan's hometown for the marriage rites. Her family welcomed Mark warmly, appreciating his kindness and the love he had for Susan. The ceremony was simple, but filled with laughter and blessings, marking the start of their beautiful journey together. One peaceful evening at Mark's home, Susan and Laura sat together on the couch, flipping through a picture book. Laura seemed quiet, her little fingers tracing the pictures absent-mindedly. Susan noticed and turned her head slightly. Laura, are you okay? You've been very quiet today. Laura hesitated, her big, curious eyes looking up at Susan. Auntie Susan, she started softly. Yes, my dear? Susan replied with a gentle smile. Setting the book aside, Laura adjusted the hem of her dress nervously. Can I call you Mommy now? Susan's heart melted. She felt a lump in her throat but quickly composed herself. She reached out and gently grasped Laura's cheeks. Oh, my sweet girl, she said warmly. I would love nothing more than for you to call me Mommy. Laura's face lit up with joy as she threw her arms around Susan. I love you, Mommy. Tears welled up in Susan's eyes as she hugged the little girl tightly. I love you too, Laura, more than you'll ever know. Mark, who had been watching from the doorway, smiled silently. He stepped into the room and joined the hug, wrapping his arms around both of them. We're a family now, Mark said softly, and nothing will ever change that. Laura's face lit up with a happy smile as she looked up at Susan and Mark. Does this mean I have two mommies? My first mommy and you? Susan nodded. That's right. And I promise to always love you and take care of you, just like your first mommy would want. Laura settled between them, feeling safe and loved. For the first time in a long time, the house felt whole again. Mike had been away for a week on a business trip, staying in a hotel to close a major deal. One morning, Susan called him. The sound of her voice immediately brought a smile to his face. Good morning, my love, Mark said, leaning back on the chair in his hotel room. Good morning, sweetheart, Susan replied warmly. How's your trip going? Productive, Mark said. I should be back by Friday. I miss you and Laura already. Susan hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly. Mark, I need a favor. Go on, he replied, his tone gentle. You know I'll do anything for you. Susan sighed. An old friend of mine called me yesterday. She was my best friend back in school. Her name is Julith. She's been through a lot. She lost her husband and child in an accident, and now she has an accommodation issue. She just needs somewhere to sort herself out for a while. She's not coming right away, but I wanted to ask if it's okay for her to stay with us when she does. Mike was silent for a moment, then he said, Susan, I trust you, and if you think this is the right thing to do, then I'm okay with it. Susan's voice brightened. Thank you, my love. I didn't want to make any decisions without talking to you first. You don't have to thank me, Mike replied with a chuckle. We're a team. Besides, I know you wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. They chatted a little while longer, laughing and sharing updates. As they hung up, Susan felt a deep sense of gratitude for the man she had chosen to build her life with. Little did she know her request would set off a chain of events that would test their love in ways she couldn't imagine. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and Mark seemed unusually cheerful as he finished his coffee. Susan, curious but busy with household chores, barely noticed until Mark walked up to her with an excited smile. Babe, he said, holding her hand, drop everything. I need you to get ready. Susan looked at him, puzzled. Get ready for what? It's a surprise, Mark replied, his tone playful. Trust me, you'll love it. Just grab your bag and let's go. Though still confused, Susan smiled and went to change. Half an hour later, they were in the car, driving toward a part of town Susan had never visited before. The streets became quieter, lined with large trees and elegant houses. Mike, where are we going? She asked, looking out the window. He laughed softly. Patience, my love. We're almost there. Finally, he pulled up in front of a gated property. Susan noticed the large house situated behind neatly trimmed hedges and a beautiful lawn. Mike, she said, her voice filled with curiosity. What's this place? Mike got out, walked over to her side, and opened the car door. Come and see, he said, helping her out. As they stepped closer, the gates opened, revealing the house in all its glory. Susan's jaw dropped. This is stunning, but why are we here? Mike took her hand and smiled warmly. Because this is our new home. Susan froze for a moment, staring at him. Our new home? Mike, are you serious? He nodded. I've been working hard, and I wanted to surprise you and Laura. You both deserve the best, and I thought this would be a fresh start for our family. Susan's eyes welled up with tears. Mike, I don't even know what to say. This is more than I could have ever dreamed of. He pulled her into a tight hug. Say you're happy. That's all I want. I'm more than happy, Susan replied, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm grateful. Thank you, Mark. I love you so much. As they stood together in front of their new home, Susan felt a deep sense of joy and hope for the future. A week later, Meso stood outside the house at the address Susan had sent her. She looked around, stunned by the size and beauty of the house. This can't be the right place, Meso murmured to herself. How could Susan live here? Did I mix up the address? She pulled out her phone and called Susan. Hello, Susan. I think there's a mistake, Meso said nervously. I'm standing at the address you sent me, but I think it's wrong. Susan laughed lightly on the other end. No mistake, Meso. That's the house. Come on in. Meso hung up, still hesitant, but she walked to the door and knocked softly. Susan opened it with a bright smile. Meso, welcome, she said, pulling her friend into a warm hug. Meso managed a weak smile. This house is beautiful, Susan. You didn't tell me you moved. We just settled in last week. Come in, let me show you around, Susan said. As Susan guided Meso through the house, they walked into the living room where Mark was sitting. The moment his eyes met Meso's, his expression changed. Meso, he said in a low, sharp voice. So we meet again. Meso froze, her face draining of color. Susan looked from Mark to Meso, confused. Wait, you two know each other? Mark stood up, his voice steady but cold. This is my ex-wife, the one I told you about. Susan's eyes widened in shock. What? Meso, you... Before Susan could finish, Mark stepped closer to Meso. Listen carefully. You're not welcome here. Not now, not ever. Leave. Meso's eyes filled with tears. Mark, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I made mistakes, terrible ones. But please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need a place to stay for a while. Susan, still trying to process everything, placed a hand on Mark's arm. Mark, please, let's talk about this. She's been through so much. Mark shook his head firmly. No, Susan. This woman doesn't deserve your kindness. She threw away her family. She doesn't get a second chance. Meso collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Susan, please, I've realized my mistakes. I don't want to take anything from you or Mark. I just want to see my daughter again. Please take care of Laura. That's all I ask. Susan looked at her friend, torn between her loyalty to Mark and her compassion for Meso. The room was filled with tension as Meso's sobs echoed, and Mark stood silently, his anger barely contained. And Mark said, before I return, make sure you're out of this house, he declared, then walked upstairs angrily. As Mark stormed upstairs, the heavy silence in the room was broken only by Meso's quiet crying. Susan stood still, her feelings mixed up. Anger, disappointment, and disbelief all at once. Finally, she turned to Meso, her voice trembling but firm. How could you, Meso? Susan began. How could you be so cruel to your own family? To a man who loved you so deeply and your own daughter, Meso? Your child? Meso buried her face in her hands, unable to look into Susan's angry eyes. Susan took a deep breath, her voice rising slightly. You told me they were gone. You lied to me, Meso. You made me believe they died in an accident. Do you know the kind of pain I felt for you? The pity I carried all these days? Meso lifted her head slightly, her face streaked with tears. Susan, I'm sorry. I was so ashamed of myself. I didn't know how to face you. I couldn't find the courage to tell you the truth. Susan shook her head, her tone a mix of disbelief and sadness. Ashamed? That's your excuse? Do you even understand the gravity of what you did? I don't even recognize you right now, Meso. The friend I knew, my best friend, would never have done something so heartless. Meso cried louder, holding on to the couch. I know I failed. I failed everyone. I failed Mark, I failed Laura, and I failed you. But Susan, please, please believe me when I say I'm truly sorry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I had to come to you because I had nowhere else to turn. Susan crossed her arms, her face hardening, though her voice softened slightly. Do you have any idea what you've put that little girl through? She's been searching for love, for answers, and for closure. And Mark, he was barely holding it together. You destroyed them, Meso. Meso nodded weakly. I know, Susan. Every day he lived with the guilt. She wiped her tears and whispered, Thank you for even listening to me, Susan. I don't deserve your kindness. In Jane's small, cozy apartment, the sound of laughter filled the air. Favor sat cross-legged on the couch, her phone in hand, scrolling through the latest news. She laughed loudly, holding up her phone. Jane, come and see this, Favor said, laughing so hard she almost dropped the device. Jane walked over from the kitchen, drying her hands with a towel. What is it? She asked, curious. Favor pointed at the screen. Chuka has been arrested. Big boy Chuka, the one who thought he owned the world, is now in jail for narcotics trafficking. Jane raised her eyebrows, shocked. What? Chuka? Are you serious? Favor nodded, laughing even harder. Oh, yes. He thought he could play everyone, and now look at him behind bars. Jane shook her head, a small smirk forming on her lips. Well, I guess karma is real after all. He had it coming. Favor leaned back, still amused. Serves him right. That man was nothing but trouble. But the light-hearted mood quickly shifted when a notification popped up on Favor's phone. Jane's eyes caught the name in the message. It was from someone she knew too well, her boyfriend. "What is that?" Jane asked, her voice suddenly serious. Favor glanced at her phone, then lifted her shoulders. "Oh, it's just your boyfriend. He was asking when we're meeting again." Jane froze, completely shocked. "What do you mean, meeting again?" "Favor, are you sleeping with my man?" Favor rolled her eyes. "Jane, don't make a big deal out of this. It's just fun." Jane's face turned red with anger. "Fun? Favor, you've been in my house, eating my food, calling yourself my friend, and all this time you've been betraying me." Favor stood up. "Oh, please, Jane. Don't act like you own him. He came to me because you clearly couldn't keep him satisfied." That was the last straw. Jane shouted, "Get out of my house, you snake! How dare you!" The argument escalated, their voices echoing through the apartment. Favor grabbed her bag and stormed toward the door. "Fine," Favor snapped, "but don't come crying to me when you realize it's your fault he left in the first place." The door slammed shut, leaving Jane alone in the tense silence. She took deep breaths as she stood in the middle of her living room, betrayed and broken. It was a calm afternoon when Susan invited Meso back to their home. She hoped this meeting would bring some resolution. As Meso entered, her steps were hesitant. The warm and inviting atmosphere of the house only made her guilt heavier. When Mike walked into the living room and saw Meso, his face darkened with anger. "Susan, what is this? I told you I don't want her in this house." "Mike, please listen to me," Susan said gently, standing between them. "I understand how you feel, but we can't keep carrying this bitterness. It's not good for you, and it's not good for Laura." Mike's voice rose. "She abandoned her family, lied, and now she's here acting like a victim. I won't stand for it." Meso, her voice trembling, spoke up. "Mike, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I've been living with the weight of my mistakes every day. I'm not here to stay. I just want to see my daughter. Even if it's only once in a while, please, that's all I ask." Mike paced the room, his hands clenched into fists. Susan approached him slowly. "Mike, think about Laura," she said softly. "She's just a child, and she loves her mother. Forgiveness isn't about letting her off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. Do it for Laura, if not for anyone else." Mike stopped, taking a deep breath. He looked at Meso, then at Susan, who held his gaze with a quiet strength. The room was silent for a moment. Mike finally spoke, his tone softer than before. "Meso, I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why you did what you did. But for Laura's sake, I'll let go of the anger. You can visit her, I forgive you." Meso's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much." Mike called out, "Laura, come down." Laura ran quickly down the stairs, her face lighting up when she saw Meso. "Mommy," she shouted, running into her arms. Meso knelt and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you so much, my baby," she whispered. Laura looked up, her small hands touching Meso's face. "Mommy, don't cry. I'm here now." Susan and Mike watched the scene unfold, their hearts full of mixed emotions. Susan reached for Mike's hand and squeezed it gently. As the family stood in that moment of reunion, a sense of peace filled the room. This story teaches us a powerful lesson. Life may be unpredictable, but the choices we make today shape the kind of future we will face tomorrow. Forgiveness, understanding, and second chances can rebuild what seems broken, but trust and love must always be nurtured. At the same time, betrayal and deceit carry heavy consequences that no one can escape. We hope this story has not only entertained you, but also touched your heart and made you reflect. If you enjoyed this, get ready for even more mind-blowing stories that will keep you hooked. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next series.